2001 is when I started blacksmithing and started knife making. Kind of got addicted pretty quick, and when I bought my place, my shop was empty, and within about 2003, I was needing to build a bigger shop. It was pretty crazy. But in 2009 is when I passed my journeyman smith test. Believe it or not, you have to go all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, to submit your test knives to be a journeyman smith or master smith. But it's pretty cool because soon after that, I came out in like 3 or 4 magazine articles. And it was just crazy. It's like once you start climbing the ladder pretty quick. It was a pretty neat time in my life. But in respect, sometimes we let things get a hold of us too, and that kind of became my life, was knife making. And it cost me a lot of things. It actually turned into be one of the hardest times in my life, actually. Even with all that success, it was pretty rough. Went through divorce after about 20 years, and it was like, man, there was a lot of changes. I got divorced in 2011, and I decided I was done making knives. I wasn't going to do that no more. And I gave my life to the Lord in 2011, and about 2013 I started forging again, and started learning who I was all over again, and now I kind of do. I still make quite a few knives, but not near as many as I used to. But I come and teach people about what we actually do. This is kind of what I do now, is I come out and let everybody see the way our forefathers used to do stuff. Man, those things get hot. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to show you how to make a cross. This is an epitome of what blacksmiths use. Take something that had some other kind of purpose, and they'd repurpose it for what they needed it for. So this is just a piece of 1/2-inch square bar. Just plain old. Y'all want to see how we cut it in some different ways? You want to take a look at that? You just cut it up one side and down the other side. So now what we want to do is I'm going to start opening this cross up. And I like to tell people this is kind of what God done in my life. He took a rough old bar of pretty useless stuff, and he kind of changed it. And the thing is, when he was doing that, man, he had to heat me up, and he had to do a lot of hammering on me. But this is really a good representation of what God done in my life. He transformed me into something that I didn't even really know I was. I'm pretty sure that this bar still had no idea I was going to be twerking on it today like this. And it really has no idea. And I'm going to change this so greatly. But it really is a good representation of what Christ does in your life. Now the thing with knives are, it's really critical to learn. One of the hardest things to learn about knife making and metal blacksmithing is how to move metal. Moving the metal it's a challenge to learn. So this is what our blacksmiths did. So back in the colonial days, a lot of your old blacksmith anvils came from England. This is a Peter Wright. I'm not sure that they don't have dates on it, but it came over on a ship at some point from England. They're all made in England. But in the colonial days, the ships would come over. They used to be carrying ballast rocks. Everybody probably knows what a ballast rock is. They'd get over here, they'd throw the rocks out, they'd load up, and they'd go back. That's what kept the ship down in the water. At some point they figured out why waste a trip. So instead of ballast rocks, they started loading the ships with anvils, and they would stop at ports on their way over here and trade goods for the anvils that they brought. So that's why most of your anvils are English from over here. This is called a hardy hole. This is just a place that we use, a thing that we use to hold all kinds of different tools. It really works good. I've got a 250-pound anvil, and that's an 1 3/4 hole. Takes a minute, it would hold some huge tools. This right here is called the Pritchett hole. It's a round hole. I'm not sure who was named Pritchett that got a hole named after him, but he must have been a pretty good fella if he got a hole named after him. But they didn't have drill bits back then, and so everything was punched. And if you had a piece of metal you needed to punch a hole through, you would heat it up, slide it over your Pritchett hole, and hammer on it. So I still don't know how they got that name Pritchett, but I've looked it up and it's not there. This is the face of your anvil. It's hard. It's pretty hard. It's about a 50 Rockwell hardness, which everything else is cast, and it's probably only like a 40. So this is actually forged welded on here. They would actually heat this whole anvil up in a big, huge coal forge. They would turn it upside down, set it on top of this plate, and it had a big like a big sledgehammer, basically just boom, and there, it stuck to the top of your anvil. But that's just forge welded on there. This shelf right here is called your cutting table. Like I said, it's only about 40 Rockwell hardness, and these are like 50, 55 usually. So if I got to do any cutting, real fine cuts, I can do it on here, and you can see a bunch of where you go through it and it doesn't break your chisel. So that's just called your cutting shelf. This is the horn. A lot of shaping. We're going to do some shaping on this cross real quick. It's amazing. There's so many different directions that you can use that to actually flare metal out and move it into a certain direction. It's really cool. This is called the sleigh tray. Believe it or not, that's where they would make, you could turn it over on its top, and they would lay a piece of metal across there like this, and you could hammer that hot metal in there, and that's what you'd put on your sleds. This would be what actually made the curve in the front of your sleigh. Depending on, this is your hub center, where if you had to do some forge welding on a cracked hub or something like that, you could make a center core that went inside the hub, and then you could lay that hub right there, and you could actually reforge weld the cracked hubs that they would have. Later wagon wheel construction, they made the hubs pretty thick, but early construction times they were real thin. They were notorious for cracking. It's a pretty cool, a lot of different anvils out there, a lot of different styles. A lot of them have side poles on them where you can use for twisting and making all kinds of decorative things. It's amazing the transformation that they made with those. So now I'm going to finish opening up this cross. So this fire pot, this is all coal. This is Oklahoma coal. It's why it smells so bad. It's got a lot of sulfur in it. You can get a lot of the Wyoming coal and the Kentucky coal. It burns a lot cleaner, but it's kind of hard to get from around here. So now I'm going to open this cross up, kind of get the wings set on it. Well, I'll tell you, one of the worst mistakes you make as a blacksmith, it takes you a while to learn it, but once you do, it makes life a lot easier, is taking the time to keep everything straight. Once it gets out of whack, all bent out of shape, it's hard to get it back in the groove sometimes. How y'all doing?
Fine.
So this is called a cross peen. This little curvature right here, if you know how to use that, you can make some metal move and move it in a hurry. There's a lot of hammer makers. Everybody thinks most hammers are like commercially made today. There's hammers out there that'll cost you $400 to $500 from a specialized hammer maker nowadays. They're hand forged. They're really neat. Man, I don't know if they're $400 or $500 neat, but I would like to have one. They'll put your name in them and all kinds of unique stuff. Now I'm going to start putting the flare on it. It's kind of, I like to relate to it. You know, we've got a cross. We've got a pretty noticeable cross. Everybody can tell that's a cross. But just like what the Lord does in my life every day, most people can tell I'm a Christian. I don't hide it. I talk about him an awful lot. But I think he just tries to make me better and better and better every day. So I'm not going to stop with just a regular cross. I'm going to make it look neat and put texture into it. Make it my own. That's what God does to me. He makes me his own. And back whenever I first gave my life to the Lord in 2011, I try to, sometimes in the very beginning, you have to, y'all seen me use that 2.5 pound hammer earlier when I was making that knife. There's days that I feel like it's probably about a 7.5 pound hammer that he's using on me. And there's days that feels like a 2 or 3 ounce hammer that he's using on me. It always feels good that he's using something on me. I mean, it's the days if you feel like he's not doing anything, that's the kind of days you ought to worry a little bit. I was reading an old blacksmith story to Cal and Harry. No, it was just, you wasn't there, was you, Harry, when I read that? Old blacksmith kind of describes some troubles he's having in his life. He said one of his friends noticed that when he gave his life to the Lord, he started having all kinds of troubles, financial troubles, and just daily life seemed to get a little bit tougher for him. So the friend come over one day, he kind of pointed out, it seems like since you started doing right and walking with the Lord that your troubles have increased. And he said, I kind of noticed that a little bit too. He said, and I actually gave him a little bit of thought. And he said, this is what I've come up with. He said, every knife that I make, I have to heat it up in the fire, and I have to hammer on it, I have to move it, I have to shape it, and I have to make sure that whenever I heat treat it in the fire and crucifixion, that it's actually going to do what it's supposed to do. It's going to hold a good edge and it's going to work really good. And he said, sometimes I find a knife that won't do that. Something's wrong with the metal. Something didn't come out right somewhere, and it just doesn't make a good knife. And so I'll have to throw it in the scrap pile and start over. I've learned that my prayer every day should just be, Lord, don't throw me in the scrap pile. I just want to keep on going, keep testing me, keep refining me. Just don't throw me in the scrap pile. So it's a good feeling to be in shape. Most days. You know what's kind of unique to me is that our blacksmiths and our craftsmen back in the early 1900s, middle 1900s, look at the Art Deco on buildings. They used to put like tremendous work into their, whatever they was doing, they wanted to do it full out and make it look pretty but function. And it's just kind of sad sometimes to look around and see all of what our craftsmen kind of do nowadays. It's like, they just get it done and yeah, it works, but that's kind of why I like blacksmithing. It lets me hammer on it and make it look really pretty, but actually function too. Found the sparkles there. It's pretty neat. Christ has done a lot of really awesome things in my life. I didn't know it when he started. He really changed who I am, what I do, and what I stand for each day. And I had no idea what he had in mind for me. But it's pretty cool. Each day I wake up, I don't go to the scrap pile, but it turns it into a nice, beautiful cross. And that's what I do, is just try to pass that on to people.